things have not been the same since you left. Things are different, things have shifted for the worst a lot of the time because your presence held weight when you were around, when you were a participant, when you were a part of the team, when you were supposed to be a respected member of the family, the community, whatever dynamic this was, the workplace. And because you're no longer around, things have shifted. Maybe people are realizing that you actually had the plan or the resources, or you had the foresight to see what needed to be done, and they realize now, because you're no longer around, that things are harder, things are more cumbersome, or they do not have the solutions because you had the solutions. Things have shifted. Maybe people are struggling more to get things done, especially very prevalent in the workplace, right, where processes are required, systems need to be up and running, people need to be vigilant, people need to do their part. And maybe everybody was slacking off or not really aware or fully in tune with what really needed to be happening, but maybe you were. And maybe you were the person who was vocal and resourceful, and maybe you weren't treated with respect. And so ever since you left, either being fired, unfortunately, quitting, being stationed elsewhere, now the team, the company, the department is struggling to stay afloat because their main woman or man is no longer around to assist, right? Things are not the same. Things are harder. It could be the romantic ventures. It could be like that, right? Where because you're no longer a part of that dynamic, right? You could have divorced your husband, wife. You could have broken up with your girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever the situation was. And once again, you could have been taken for granted. You could have been cheated on. You could have been played for a fool. You could have been swindled, used, right? Hurt in multiple ways, maybe, because you decided that you're going to follow your own path and you're going to act on your self-worth. You're going to put that first. Now the folks that your partner that you left behind is feeling depleted, feeling sad, feeling regretful, feeling some type of way because you're no longer within their grasp, either of, you could have had all the resources, you could have been the breadwinner, you could have been really like a true confidant for this individual. You could have been there for them, their rider, you could have been their listening, a listening ear for them, a shoulder to cry on. You could have been somebody who really cared about them, was loyal to them, despite their multiple infractions towards you. And they realize now that things are tough, that they can't find a viable replacement for you. They cannot seek and find somebody who could take your spot because you were one of a kind, right? And they could be reminiscing and wishing and hoping that maybe things could change. And it's like, nah, it's not like that because you moved on. Things are not the same. These people will be looking sad, sometimes feeling down, sometimes acting volatile, angry, doing reckless actions because the connection is no longer solid, or maybe it was always on shaky grounds, right? So things aren't the same, right? Maybe you're a high vibrating person who brings a certain type of vibe to every room that you walk into, but you weren't always getting that reception. People could have been cold to you. People could have been jealous of you, plotting on you, competitive with you. It could have been anybody, so-called friends, so-called family members, you name it. And because you're no longer, you drew your energy back is what you probably did in some capacity. You decided like, listen, I'm not going to be a part. I'm not going to keep, pouring my love, my heart, my soul into connections that don't pour back into me, that are not equal based. Then now there is a void that's being felt, or the silence, because you're no longer speaking, you're no longer explaining yourself, you're no longer around. It's being felt, like your absence is felt, right? It's like people could feel you now or hear you now because you're not around, and they wish that they maybe listened to you. Maybe they wish that they respected you more. Maybe they see how successful you are now because you're no longer tethered to them, and you realize your worth once again, and you're acting on your worth. So it could be very possible that people are seeing that you're glowing anyway and you're rising anyway, and they can't be a part of that journey. They cannot go on this odyssey with you, right? So things have changed since you've left. People are feeling more sad, more exposed, perhaps more upset, regretful, remorseful, angry, right? Jealous, desperate, because you're no longer within their grasp and they feel like they've lost a lot more than they've gained from your departure, from you being, unchained from whatever the dynamic, encompassed. And so let it be known, if you feel like things have changed since you've left a dynamic or a situation or a place. All right, everybody. Thank you guys so much for supporting the Mindset Elevator. I love you guys so much, and I'll see you guys soon.